Hi, I'm James Ramsey, Senior Product Manager for Source Code and Gitaly groups of the create stage of the DevOps lifecycle here at GitLab. And I have 5 features I'd like to share with you today that we'll be working on the 12.6 release of GitLab, which will be released on December 22. The first improvement I'd like to share is to do with syntax highlighting, or diff highlighting for merge request suggestions. Merge request suggestions make it really easy to provide actionable feedback when performing a code review. Instead of describing the change to the author that you think is necessary, you can simply propose the change. Then the author can review the change and click apply with one click, adding it to the merge request. However, today the diff highlighting is very basic and limited, and so certain changes are hard to understand and detect. We simply show the first line in red and the second line in green. But if someone's made a hard to notice adjustment to spelling, or added a comma here or something like that, it can be hard to spot. So word diff highlighting will make it very easy for you to see what change is being proposed so you can accept it with confidence. And this change is coming to GitLab Core in 12.6. The next improvement I'd like to share is to do with how we load diffs in the merge request. Engineers spend a large part of their day performing code reviews, and for long merge requests with lots of changes, loading the merge request page can take a little while. Today, while the merge request is loading, the page often is unresponsive, so you can't scroll and start reading the diff. You have to wait for everything to load. So in 12.6, we want to improve the way the browser responds and renders the content so that it is immediately interactive. You can start scrolling the diff even if it hasn't fully loaded and start your review right away. So this should make merge requests feel much more responsive and enjoyable to use. And we're going to do this by restructuring the DOM, the way it's loaded, to reduce memory and CPU usage on the client. The next improvement also to merge requests and the diffs is to request inline or parallel diffs individually rather than both of them. Today, when you load a merge request, it loads both the inline and side-by-side diff data via the API, even though it only renders one of them. This doubles the amount of data in the API response, which means that rendering everything is much slower because we have to wait longer for all the data to be transferred from the server. So in 12.6, we're going to be improving performance by sending about half the data when we load the diff. And that should also speed up the browser because the browser has less data to pass, and make the page feel responsive faster. So these are 2 wonderful improvements that should impact every user of GitLab when they're using merge requests and making them much more enjoyable. Both these changes are coming to GitLab Core, so every user of GitLab will benefit from these performance improvements. The fourth change, that I'd like to highlight is to do with improved Git pack file reuse. The Gitaly group is going to be working on this. And the reason we're going to be working on this is modern software development heavily relies on continuous integration. So whenever you push a commit, your CI pipelines will kick off and run a whole suite of tests to make sure that the code you've changed works. This is great. But for large applications, this can take quite a while because you might have hundreds of thousands of tests for a big application, maybe even millions. So running those could take a really long time. That's not very effective, and it's really annoying for engineers. It really slows down the feedback cycle, reduces velocity. So what most teams do is they run the tests in parallel. So there might be 100 different CI servers that spin up in parallel and run the tests at the same time. But if you spin up 100 CI tests at the same time, each one of those typically has to clone the repository. This creates a really high load on the GitLab server, particularly the Gitaly server, increasing memory and CPU usage, making the clone slower, and also degrading performance for all the other Git operations that might be happening on that project or other projects that are on the same Gitaly server. So Git has this wonderful feature called pack file reuse. So instead of dynamically assembling the response when you clone a repository, it will stream the pack file directly from disk if it's been correctly packed. And so we're working on a range of upstream improvements to Git itself, and we'll be making sure those improvements are available in GitLab. And we hope to ship this in 12.6, or at least verify and test these improvements to reduce the problem of parallel CI tests. We know this is impacting a number of our customers. We're also seeing it on a couple of projects on gitlab.com. So this is a really exciting and high impact improvement for large projects with heavily parallelized CI tests. So really exciting performance improvements here. And finally, the fifth item I wanted to share is an update on our progress on HA Gitaly. So Gitaly is how we scale Git repositories at GitLab. And we've been working on making this service highly available for our customers. We've been working on creating the reverse proxy replication, and in this 12.6 development cycle, we focused on introducing a basic version of failover. And this is all working towards MVC that we hope to ship in 2020 in March. I'll continue to keep you updated every month when we do these kickoff calls on our progress, and hopefully be able to share a demo soon of the whole cycle once we've completed all the basic components needed to demonstrate replication and failover. So 5 great improvements coming from the source code and Gitaly team, very performance focused. These should improve the daily experience of using GitLab for nearly all of our users. So really wonderful refinements and improvements. Thanks for your time. Bye.